Jennifer started out for us making salads at 13. Did anybody else start here younger than 13? Working at the Arrow? 12?
Child labor!
Tommy, I already quit by the time I was 13.
I was a salad girl on Friday nights for how long? A period of years. And I sent an email when I found out about the reunion. I'm a social worker now, and I work with people who are mentally ill for my full-time real career, my job. And I got to thinking about work and what I learned about work and values and work ethics and things that occur to me in my day-to-day work life from working in that kitchen. And specific things that occurred to me were things that, you know, I have students that work under me now, things about like calling in and you know, when you call in, you're going to have to talk to Virginia, you're going to have to get your story straight, you're going to have to explain it, you know. And so I would know that, like, as a 13-year-old learning these lessons, and I remember to this day about accountability, knowing the people that you work with, being on time, having respect for your coworkers, being able to know that you can go to work and have fun and do your job. And these are all things I got to know from a very young age from working in that kitchen. And I just, I do very different work today, but I learned all those values and those things from being in that kitchen, and I'm very, very grateful for the things I learned at the Arrow.
Thank you, Jen. Many of you are wondering how this all started, this Arrow reunion. We had nothing to do with it. Someone started on Facebook, and would you please reveal yourself tonight? Who goes under the alias of Billy Dice? Billy Dice is a former worker for us at the Arrow, who passed away many years ago. But someone started the Arrow restaurant site on Facebook under the name of Billy Dice. We're all wondering who it is. Is he here? No one will take claim. Okay, I'm going to read you. Well, anyway, that's how this all started. Whoever Billy Dice is on the internet started the Arrow page, and it took off from there, and I was like the 130th member. Everybody knew before me about this thing. So it snowballed. But I'm going to read you an email from Aki Kanaya, a little Japanese chef we had, who was the originator. He was the one that lit the candle to get this reunion going, who couldn't make it tonight. Tommy, you and your entire family are a class act and have been like family to me since day one. I remember my first day working there at age 13, 1981 to 1991, under a work-study program at Bedford Junior High. Carol Beeling brought me in, and I was so scared and nervous because it was my first job ever. The scare, anxiety, and fright was immediately alleviated when I realized I was amongst friends and family. On that day, the family, Louis Savioli, my brother Louis, Slats, put me to work right away making burgers. I took so much away from the Arrow by working there. I learned camaraderie, responsibility, work ethic, how to be and act like a man, and most importantly, the true meaning of friendship. In other words, they were the best times of my life. P.S. I'll never forget your mom giggling at me the first few days, telling me that it wasn't necessary for me to bring my lunchbox to work. Hey, I hope you got that on tape. Okay, this is from London, from Andrew Amill. I received about 30 emails, and I just picked a couple to read. I worked at the Arrow during the summer of 1980 prior to my senior year in college as a waiter. Long, rewarding nights and days with your dad, Mom, Cheech, Louie, and working the bar room. I can still see Lou waltzing in at 5 p.m. out of his blue Corvette, ready to handle the tables in the bar where all the regulars dined and the tips were the best. That's where Jeff Strauss sat too, by the way. Also, Mrs. Duffy. Your mom ran the ship, making sure that everyone got a table fast and that the food flowed on time from the kitchen. Your dad ruled the roost through a combination of intimidation, high expectations, and had a real soft spot. He was a great man. My first week, I was a busboy, but he turned to me and asked, "Why aren't you a waiter?" I sheepishly responded that I didn't know why. He instructed me to put me on the floor ASAP. It turned out to be a super summer for a kid looking to bank both tuition and beer money. So many of my fond memories are of my work at the Arrow. Awesome food, awesome family, and a raucous, I won't read the rest. Before I bring up the star of the night, would anyone else like to come up and say a few words? Come on, Butte. Tim Romano. This here. Oh, you're next.
Hi, everybody. With my mom over here, we're just talking about, we lived in the big gray house, Tommy. Where'd you guys live, next door? Right by where Galt is now. We lived on the second floor, and we moved when I was in second grade. So somewhere before second grade, there was a one-car garage where all the tomato sauce used to come in on the trailer truck, and it was stacked in there like it was like a mountain for us. This kid Nicky that lived on the third floor. So we were home from school for whatever reason. We got a bright idea that we were going to go in there and see what was going on. So about a half hour later, that garage was burned right to the ground. Remember, Lou? I can hey, you live next door. I can remember, for whatever reason, just being a young kid, there was burlap bags full of receipts in there. They're gone. And then that afternoon, my older brother gets off the school bus. He goes, "They painted the garage black?" So then they moved the sauce up to Riverside Avenue. We used to get sent with Slats to go get it with his little white pickup truck. We blew that thing right up. Put about 40 cases on there, and I can't repeat what he used to say.
Yes, you can, Denny.
No. There's a story about Uncle Joe, similar to yours, Eddie. Where are you? Eddie Googs. And it's not about me. It's about Johnny Condon. He was going to school at Villanova, and Johnny and I talk about these things. These old stories that will never be duplicated. But it's a life lesson. And Uncle Joe stuffed a bunch of money in his back pocket, and he said, "If your mother or father ever hear about this money going in your back pocket, you and I are going to have a problem." So Johnny, of course, being the big mouth that he is, told his mother and father that Joe had given him some money because they wanted to know why he wasn't calling home for money. So Johnny came home for Thanksgiving to work a few days. And he said to this day, he knows what it feels like, and he can still remember what it feels like to get hit in the back of the ass with a meat cleaver on the flat, and learn to keep your mouth shut, kid. So that's the kind of people, that we were around, and I think everybody in this room has some memories that are life lessons, right? It was, we could stay here until tomorrow and all tell stories. It was just great. I was 11, by the way, when I started. I think I finally quit for the last time when I was 17, and it's probably about 7 or 8 times in between. Wouldn't trade it for the world. Going to the Safari Pub at the age of 14. Mom, we did go to Carvel too, though. I didn't tell you everything. I think, who's up, Dino?
No, not yet.
No, you ready almost, Dino?
One more minute.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Timmy. At this time, Ray, keep the camera right there and come on over here, Ray. Ray Flanigan, who's donating his services for us tonight, told me a story today about my Uncle Lou that I had never heard in my life. And I want Ray to repeat it.
Thank you, Lou. You know, it's funny, I have a storefront in Bethel, Connecticut, a frame shop, and I've been there for 11 years, and I don't think I've had 5 high school kids come into my store and ask if they could have a job. Back in the day, we all worked our tails off. When we turned 16, we started working, and we never stopped working. And it was restaurants like this. I happened to work at Allen's Clam House when I was a kid, and then I worked some at the Arrow sometimes in the wintertime. But those restaurants, the Allen's was the Ussolinis, the Nisticos, they all got along. We all met in Saugatuck sometime afterwards. But, you know, you learn to work. We played sports. You'd play a game in the afternoon, and you go straight to work bussing tables. That's what we did. Today, kids want a $250 pair of soccer shoes, and they don't want to work a day for it. So it's, you know, that kind of work ethic that we learned at the Arrow has stuck with all of us. I would say that I was a soccer guy in high school, and we had a very successful program at Staples, and we used to go to the Arrow for pasta dinner before big games. And in my junior year, we're playing in a state tournament. We had already lost to Brian McMahon in the county championships, and we're hitting them in the state finals, so we decided they'd bring us down to the Arrow for pasta. And I'll never forget this guy. Well, I took this picture. This was just weeks before Louis went in the hospital. Went down to the Arrow for dinner, and we're all sitting there. The whole team is there, and Mr. Nistico, that we called him. We didn't call him. A lot of people called him Uncle Lou. You know, every kid had respect for the Nisticos. Called him Mr. Nistico. He came to the table and he said, "Listen, guys, I want you to see what you can do on Saturday." He says, "I want you to know that any one of you guys, anybody scores a goal in that game tomorrow, I want you to go to Ed Mitchell's and pick yourself out a $50 sports coat." Well, back in those days, $50 sports coat was quite a coat. You could get one at Richards for about $8, I think, or Barker's, you know, but $50 at Ed Mitchell's was quite a coat. A $30 sweater, he said, anyone that gets an assist. And he says, you, the goalkeeper, he says, if you get a shutout, he says, I'd like to buy you a sports coat too. So we went out after losing to them in the regular season. We beat them 3-0. My good friend John Hand had 2 goals and an assist. And Mr. Nistico, Louis, would like to buy him 2 coats and a sweater. And he said, no, thank you, Mr. Nistico. I think you've done enough. 1 coat will just be fine. So that's the kind of people they were. And this was a family who we all knew that the Nisticos were football guys, but we were soccer guys, and they embraced us just the same. And I think that's why Staples up there is the high school field house is a Nistico field house, correct? Yes. Yeah, and named after Uncle Louis. So, again, we thank you all. Just one other quick one. I remember there was a waiter down there. I don't know if he was Tony or Dominic or what, but a poor guy. You know, back in the day, waiters worked as waiters their whole life. You know, that's what they did. They were pros, and there were a lot of those old pros that worked at the Arrow. Well, this old waiter passed away, and his poor wife was so lonely that for 3 years she just couldn't function. She was depressed. She was having a hell of a time. Her Tony had passed away. So she talked to her friends. They said, you know, you gotta get better. You gotta come around. She says, I just can't. I just miss my Tony so much. She says, you know what you should do? She says, you should go to one of these seances. They have these seances where they sit around a table and the medium can contact the people from the other world. So she misses her Tony so much that she goes to the seance, and they sit around the table, they dim the lights down, and you hear the lights are dim, and sure enough, over in the corner is Tony. He's got on his white shirt, black bow tie, his red apron, and a bark towel over his arm. He's standing over there. She says, oh, Tony, she says, is that you? He says, yes, Mary, it's me. She says, come over here. He says, I can't. That's not my table. Anyway, thanks to all the Mysticals.